The Senate will come to order. The Secretary will call the roll.
Senator Buck. Senator Cannizzaro. Senator Cruz Crawford. Senator Daley. Senator Duñate. Senator Dondero-Loop. Senator Ellison. Senator Flores. Senator Hansen. Senator Krasner. Senator Lang. Senator Neal. Senator Wynn. Senator Orenshaw. Senator Pizzina. Senator Rogish. Senator Scheibel. Senator Steinbeck. Senator Stone. Senator Taylor. Senator Titus.
Let the record reflect there are 21 senators present. Please rise for the prayer by President Rajan Zed, Universal Society of Hinduism in Reno, and remain standing for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Starting with Gayatri Mantra, which is considered the most sacred mantra of Hinduism, I shall be reading from ancient Hindu scriptures, some as old as 1500 BCE, and then interpreted in English. I shall conclude the prayer with Om. I shall appreciate it if you can repeat after me, please. Om Bhurvah Svah Tat Saviturvarenyam Bhargo Devasya Dhimahi Dhiyo Yo Na Prachodayat. We meditate on the transcendental glory of the Deity Supreme, who is inside the heart of the earth, inside the life of the sky, and inside the soul of the heaven. May He stimulate and illuminate our minds. Samniva Akuti Samna Hirdayaniva Samnam Astu Vomano Yatha Vasusa Hasti. United your resolve, united your hearts, may your spirits be at one, that you may long together dwell in unity and concord. Niyatam Kuru Karma Tvam Karma Jaya Hya Karmana Srira Yatrapi Chatena Prasiddhi Ed Karmana Jagnarthat Karmanao Nyatra Lokoyam Karma Bandhana Tadartham Karma Kaunteya Mukta Sang Samachara. Fulfill all your duties. Action is better than inaction. Even to maintain your body, you are obliged to act. Selfish action imprisons the world. Act selflessly without any thought of personal profit. Yate Tanur Vachi Pratishtha Ya Srotre Ya Cha Kaksusi Ya Cha Manasi Santata Sivam Tam Kuru Moth Krami. Be kind to us with your invisible form, which dwells in the voice, the eye, and the ear, and pervades the mind. Abandon us not. Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. Peace, peace, peace be unto all. Om. Thank you.
I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Order of Business 3, reading and approval of the journal. By previous order of the Senate, the reading of the journal is dispensed with, and the President and Secretary are authorized to make the necessary corrections and additions. Order of Business 4, reports of committees.
Mr. President, your Committee on Finance, to which were re-referred Senate Bills numbers 6 and 233, is have the same under consideration and begs leave to report the same back with the recommendation do pass. Signed, Senator Marilyn Dondero-Loop, Chair. End of reports.
Order of Business 6, messages from the Assembly.
Assembly Chamber, Carson City, May 26, 2025. To the Honorable the Senate, I have the honor to inform your honorable body that the Assembly on this day concurred in Senate Amendment 668 to Assembly Bill 3, Senate Amendment 637 to Assembly Bill 19, Senate Amendment 631 to Assembly Bill 29, Senate Amendment 630 to Assembly Bill 40, Senate Amendment 689 and 768 to Assembly Bill 43, Senate Amendment 667 to Assembly Bill 44, Senate Amendment 629 to Assembly Bill 59, Senate Bill 632, or Senate Amendment 632 to Assembly Bill 73, Senate Amendment 691 to Assembly Bill 82, Senate Amendment 692 to Assembly Bill 83, Senate Amendment 601 to Assembly Bill 96, Senate Amendment 628 to Assembly Bill 105, Senate Amendment 606 to Assembly Bill 128, Senate Amendment 625 to Assembly Bill 137, Senate Amendment 636 to Assembly Bill 176, Senate Amendment 581 to Assembly Bill 198, Senate Amendment 626 to Assembly Bill 209, Senate Amendment 694 to Assembly Bill 211, Senate Amendment 582 to Assembly Bill 215, Senate Amendment 687 and 688 to Assembly Bill 241, Senate Amendment 592 and 734 to Assembly Bill 250, Senate Amendment 743 to Assembly Bill 262, Senate Amendment 679 to Assembly Bill 350, Senate Amendment 672 to Assembly Bill 351, Senate Amendment 635 to Assembly Bill 368, Senate Amendment 577 to Assembly Bill 387, Senate Amendment 558 to Assembly Bill 394, Senate Amendment 585 to Assembly Bill 411, Senate Amendment 616 to Assembly Bill 420, Senate Amendment 584 to Assembly Bill 450, Senate Amendment 614 to Assembly Bill 454, and Senate Amendment 598 to Assembly Bill 486. Signed, Jason Hadaway, Assistant Chief Clerk of the Assembly. End of messages.
Order of Business 9, motions, resolutions, and notices. Senator Cannizzaro.
Thank you, Mr. President. I am giving notice that pursuant to Senate Standing Rule number 41, that Senator Scheibel will serve as a member of Finance in place of myself as necessary for the remainder of this legislative session.
Order of Business 13, general file.
Senate Bill 63, introduced by the Senate Committee on Commerce and Labor, revises provisions relating to the use of certain online products and services by minors and children. The people of the state of Nevada, represented in Senate Assembly, to enact as follows. Section 1, end of Section 1.
Are there any amendments?
There are none. Section 38, end of Section 38, end of bill.
Senator Lang.
Thank you, Mr. President. Senate Bill 63 establishes provisions relating to the use of covered digital platforms by minors who reside in Nevada and requires such platforms upon the request of a parent or legal guardian to disable certain features on the account of a minor user. Also, a platform must either establish certain safeguards related to usage time and notifications to minors or refrain from sending such notifications during certain times of the day.
Any further remarks? Senator Buck.
Thank you, Mr. President. I arise in opposition to Senate Bill 63, which, while well-intentioned, oversteps constitutional bounds and imposes impractical restrictions on online platforms. This bill's vague definitions, such as covered digital platform and user-generated content, creates uncertainty for platforms, risking arbitrary enforcement and chilling protected speech. Its prohibition on using minors' personal information in recommendation systems is overly broad, potentially shifting legitimate platform functions while failing to narrowly address specific harms. Requiring parental consent and disabling features like infinite scrolling or live streaming at a guardian's request infringes on minors' First Amendment rights to access lawful content, even with parental approval, and burdens adults' access to protected speech. The mandated safeguards, such as limiting usage time or notifications, are not narrowly tailored to be a compelling state interest and may deter platforms from operating in Nevada altogether. The bill's vague provisions invite over-compliance, threatening free expression and innovation. For these reasons, I urge my colleagues to reject this flawed bill and protect the constitutional rights of Nevadans.
Any further remarks? Secretary will open the roll. Anyone wish to change their vote? Secretary will close the roll. Yeses are 13, the noes are 8. SB 63 has received the constitutional majority, is declared passed and ordered to the Assembly.
Senate Bill 90, introduced by Senator Dondero Loop, makes an appropriation to the Department of Education for the provision of grants to organizations to provide certain supplies and materials to teachers and specialized instructional support personnel. People of the State of Nevada represented in Senate Assembly to enact as follows, Section 1 into Section 1.
Are there any amendments?
There are none. Section 3, this act becomes effective upon passage and approval. End of bill.
Senator Dondero Loop.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. Senate Bill 90, as introduced, provides $15 million general fund appropriation to the Nevada Department of Education to support teachers and specialized instructional support personnel with the purchase of necessary classroom supplies and school operation materials, with no more than $7.5 million to be expended in fiscal year 26. Senate bill further requires the department to grant the funds to one or more organizations to enter into agreements with teachers. This is a very important bill that also allows teachers to have $500 per individual to support their classrooms.
Any further remarks? Secretary will open the roll. Anyone wish to change their vote? Secretary will close the roll. Yeses are 21, the noes are 0. SB 90 has received the constitutional majority, is declared passed and ordered to the Assembly.
Senate Bill 391, introduced by Senator Neal, revises provisions relating to real property of the people of the State of Nevada represented in Senate and Assembly to enact as follows, Section 1 into Section 1.
Are there any amendments?
I have amendment number 783, proposed by the Senate Committee on Finance.
Senator Dondero Loop.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. I move to dispense with the reading of the amendment.
If there are no objections, so ordered. Senator Dondero Loop.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. I move to adopt the amendment.
You've heard the motion. Senator Dondero Loop.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. Amendment 783 to Senate Bill 391 removes Section 6, thereby eliminating the appropriations from the State General Fund to the Office of Secretary of State of $476,004 in fiscal year 26 and $81,705 in fiscal year 27 for the costs of personnel, travel, operating equipment, information services, and contractors to carry out provisions of the Act.
Any further remarks on the amendment? Seeing none, those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, nay. Motion carries. SB 91 is now ready for final consideration.
Senate Bill 391, introduced by Senator Neal, revises provisions relating to real property of the people of the State of Nevada represented in Senate and Assembly to enact as follows, Section 1 into Section 1.
Are there further amendments?
There are none. Section 7 into Section 7. End of bill. This bill requires a two-thirds majority vote.
Senator Neal.
Thank you, Mr. President. SB 391 limits the ability for corporate investors to purchase properties at 100 a year. Mr. President, I don't even know. I have a statement in support for SB 391.
Any further remarks? Senator Hansen.
No, I'm not done. I know he wants to go.
Okay, Senator Neal.
So Senate Bill 391 as amended limits, with certain exceptions, the total aggregate number of units of residential property in the state that may be purchased in one calendar year. It limits that number to 100. It further requires that the Securities Division of the Office of the Secretary of State to create and maintain a registry of such entities that purchase or own a residential real property in the state, and establishes requirements for the form and contents of the instrument for the filing of those limitations on that property.
Senator Hansen.
Thanks, Mr. President. For the first time this session, I have actually been asked by the executive branch to support a caucus no position, which I have agreed to do. Having said that, I supported my colleague from Senator Ford's bill last session, and I support the concept currently as well. The American dream, which everybody knows is to own a home, is being taken away from the citizens of Nevada. Now, according to the governor's office, they have a bill going through now, a housing bill, and hopefully some of the better elements of this bill can somehow be incorporated into that in the last waning days of this session. Because here's the concern. Most of us are familiar with the concern we've had about China buying up American farmland, and there have been several states across the nation that have blocked that from happening. What's happening here in Nevada is hedge funds, which in my opinion are disproportionately financed by those same elements, are buying up the housing in Nevada. Right now in Clark County, 15% of all the residential housing is owned by hedge funds. In northern Las Vegas, it is 25%. They are purchasing right now an average of about 25% of all the houses that go on the market. And think of it this way, if I'm not supposed to say it. If me was to be bidding against, and a couple of other ordinary people of ordinary finances were to be bidding against Elon Musk, who was going to win that bidding war? And when you look at the housing costs in Las Vegas, now obviously nobody can see it, but I've got the graph here going back to 1980, and I'll gladly share it with everybody. But if you look at this graph, there has been a massive spike in the last 10 years in the cost of housing in Nevada, especially Clark County. And when you realize why, it's because the Elon Musks of the world, frankly, the hedge funds, are outbidding the ordinary folks. Now, when Alexis and I bought our first, or not our first, but the house we're currently living in, we borrowed $750,000. And we pay, to this day, $2,100 a month on that mortgage. Right now in Clark County, the average rent is over $2,000. In other words, people renting homes are paying what I paid to borrow $750,000. Now, when you look at it too, okay, I'm bidding against a hedge fund, I lose, now I'm forced to rent. Who do I rent from? I rent from the very hedge funds that defeated me in my bid war to try to purchase the American dream and have my first home. So this is a real problem. And I've voted against every rent control bill that's come through here because I don't believe rent control works. But I can certainly understand the frustration of the average person in Nevada, a young home buyer for the first time. Remember, for those of us that already own properties, this makes our values go up. But if you're trying to buy for the first time and you're up against a hedge fund, you're going to lose. And then when you lose, you're forced to rent from the hedge fund. Another weird phenomenon. For the first time in my life, they're building housing tracts to rent, not to sell. There's hundreds of millions of dollars of investment in building an entire housing tract. Why are these housing tracts being built to rent rather than allowing younger people to buy those homes for the first time? So these are the issues that made me agree completely with my senator from District 4 last time, and I totally agree with her in concept now. I'm a little frustrated, as you probably can sense in my voice, by this situation, because it may not be the best, but like my good friend Maggie Carlton has always reminded me, sometimes you need to support the good and not wait for the perfect. So in the closing days of the session, I am hoping the governor in his housing bill will try to incorporate some elements of this bill so that younger people in Nevada can, in fact, buy land. Now, some are relying on Mark Amadei's lands bill to increase the amount of federal land, and that is a good step in the right direction, but it is not the problem, okay? It will help alleviate it over the long term, but the real problem is how do we stop these hedge funds from investing hundreds of millions of dollars into Nevada's housing market and literally outbidding our own young people who are trying to have their very first home for the first time. So I very reluctantly vote no today, but I absolutely want us moving forward to continue to address this issue. If there are constitutional issues, then address what those constitutional issues are, and let's see if we can fix this, because the young people of the state and the people that are getting, frankly, squeezed in this rental market need our help. So reluctantly, Mr. President, I am voting no, but I hope the message I've shared today goes forward and we can start addressing these critical issues, especially for the younger first-time home buyers in the state of Nevada. Thank you, Mr. President.
Senator Scheibel.
Thank you, Mr. President. I rise in support today of SB 391, and I'll be backing that up with my yes vote this afternoon on the floor, because I think this is a crucial issue for Nevadans. The home prices, as you have heard, as you all know, are absolutely skyrocketing throughout the nation, and Nevada is being hit hardest out of all of those states. Maybe not number one, maybe not number two, but we are absolutely feeling that crushing weight of increasing home costs as much or more than any other state in the nation. And home ownership is not only the American dream, but home ownership is about financial security, it's about wealth, and it's about generational wealth. Studies over the last several centuries, several decades have shown that in a family where the parents own a home, that is the biggest indicator of whether or not future generations will also become wealthy or whether they will remain struggling against poverty. Allowing Nevadans, encouraging Nevadans, supporting Nevadans to become homeowners isn't just about the generations that we put in homes today, but it's about the generations that come after them. It's about building generational wealth for people across the state so that our kids grow up in better communities where we have funding for schools and roads and infrastructure and police. And that begins to crumble when homes aren't owned by Nevadans, but they're owned by corporations. When Nevadans don't own their homes, but corporations own their homes, we lose that community and we lose that buying power. We lose so much of what gives us independence in the state of Nevada. I think that this is a measured approach that provides the proper guardrails to ensure that we continue to flourish in a free market economy while ensuring that every single person who works hard, stays in school, gets a job, tries their hardest, does all the things that we've been telling them to do, has the opportunity to succeed. And that success also includes owning a home. I think that SB 391 is a great step forward for Nevadans. It helps not only young people who are trying to buy their home for the first time, but it helps people at any stage in life who are trying to buy a home for the first time, or maybe trying to get back into homeownership. Over the last several decades, we've seen many people lose their homes through foreclosure, through the financial crises that we've had. And so for some people who have enjoyed the benefits of homeownership and since lost those benefits, now is the time that they're trying to get back into a home that they can own. And being able to do that is important to our economy and it's important to our communities. So I'm proud to stand in support of SB 391 today and hope that my colleagues will join me.
Senator Pizzina.
Thank you so much, Mr. President. I also rise in strong support of Senate Bill 391. As the previous senators in this chamber have shared, this is the American dream, home ownership. And by voting for a bill like Senate Bill 391, we're making that dream accessible to Nevadans. When we look at reporting, the largest homeowner in Nevada with 3,000 homes is an out-of-state corporation. Buying up 250 homes in one day is a hedge fund from Miami. Looking at reporting from the Nevada Current, someone making $25 an hour is priced out of roughly 2/3 of Nevada's rental market. We have a real problem, and Senate Bill 391 helps solve it, so I'm proud to stand in support today.
Senator Neal.
Thank you, Mr. President. I rise in support of SB 391. I had to really think through my thoughts because I've been trying to control my temper. And this bill, it's the second iteration that's come through this body. The first iteration got vetoed, and then we came back this legislative session, and at the State of the State, I had to ask my colleague from Senate, his former Assembly District 28, but now I can't remember. But I had to ask him, did I remember the State of the State speech accurately? And then I went through and I started trying to read and go back through the speech and the video, because it was distinct that when we sat in the State of the State, that the leader of this state actually said that he was supporting corporate investors, but he gave credit to someone else. And then I went and I asked my other Senate colleague, and I said, I hear that right, because I know I distinctly remember it being said, because I ran to the front and saying, I cannot believe that he is placing corporate investors and going after corporate investors in the State of the State speech. I then had to think through this challenge that is being brought up to say that not only is SB 391 not constitutional, but that he didn't want to be in the position to have to veto it again. And so in my thoughts while I was sitting here unprepared, I started thinking the best form of me is the authentic me, the one that will actually challenge and sit and tell the truth in the face of conflict. And when I thought about what they're running around in the building and saying that it's unconstitutional, I want to do a small education around what are the actual police powers of the legislature. One of the main powers that the legislature has that's been granted to us through the 14th Amendment, by the 14th Amendment, and it comes through the 10th Amendment, is the power to promote public welfare by restraining and regulating the use of property. It is not only a plenary power, it's a real power. There have been several Supreme Court cases that have actually moved around housing being one of the categories that is listed under general welfare and giving the states the power to limit the economic viability of someone who is trying to move forward. There is a Supreme Court case that stated that a government intervention will not be held as confiscatory simply because it prevents the owner from making a profitable use of the property. We have seen a housing crisis rise up in Nevada for over 7 years. As my colleague said from Senate District 14, they have came in and literally purchased all of the homes in low-income communities, leaving them with nothing but rental opportunities. We as a state need to move against this particular power that is turning over homes to corporate investors and not giving our own people the right to go and bid against an investor and own the property. It is perfectly within the purview of the legislature to move within this realm of the policing powers and to actually go in and regulate while that housing crisis is going on. It is not forever, it is while the crisis is going on. I even looked to try to see if there was any other limitation within the Constitution that would limit the state from acting. And one of the strongest powers to move is the police power. It is not infringing upon the Commerce Clause and an investor that wants to come in and try to purchase property. Because we then have the power to act as a market regulator and a market participant within the Dormant Commerce Clause when we are thinking and trying to regulate behavior for the general welfare and purpose for our citizens. And SB 391 attempts to protect our own people, allow them to reach the American dream, as my other colleagues have stated, and I rise in support of SB 391.
Senator Scheibel, do you have further remarks? No, sir. Any further remarks? Secretary will open the roll. Anyone wish to change their vote? Secretary will close the roll. Yeses are 13, and those are 8. SB 391 has failed to receive a 2/3 vote and is declared dead. Senator Cannizzaro.
Thank you, Mr. President. I would move to reconsider the vote whereby Senate Bill 391 was lost.
You've heard the motion. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. Motion carries. Senator Cannizzaro.
Thank you, Mr. President. I would move to take Senate Bill 391 from its place on general file and place it on the Secretary's desk.
You've heard the motion. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. Motion carries.
Senate Bill 472, introduced by the Senate Committee on Finance, makes appropriations to the Nevada System of Higher Education for expenditures related to instruction that are due to caseload adjustments at certain institutions within the system. People of the state of Nevada represented in Senate Assembly do enact as follows, Section 1 and Section 1.
Are there any amendments?
There are none. Section 7, this act becomes effective on July 1, 2025. End of bill.
Senator Dondero-Loop.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. Senate Bill 472, as amended, makes appropriations totaling $9,721,776 from the State General Fund of the Nevada System of Higher Education for expenditures relating to instruction that are due to caseload adjustments at certain institutions within the system.
Are there any remarks? Secretary will open the roll. Anyone wish to change their vote? Secretary will close the roll. Yeses are 21, the noes are 0. SB 472 has received the constitutional majority, is declared passed and ordered to the Assembly.
Senate Bill 473, introduced by the Senate Committee on Finance, makes appropriations to and authorizes the expenditure of money by the Department of Education for the replacement of computer hardware and associated software and office chairs. The people of the state of Nevada, represented in Senate and Assembly, do enact as follows. Section 1 into Section 1.
Are there any amendments?
There are none. Section 17 into Section 17. End of bill.
Senator Taylor.
Thank you, Mr. President. Senate Bill 473, as amended, makes general fund appropriations totaling $224,699 and authorizations totaling $18,118 over the 25-27 biennium to various Department of Ed budget accounts for replacement of computer hardware, software, and office furniture.
Are there further remarks? Secretary will open the roll. Anyone wish to change their vote? Secretary will close the roll. Yeses at 21, the noes are 0. SB 473 has received the constitutional majority, is declared passed and ordered to the Assembly.
Senate Bill 475, introduced by the Senate Committee on Finance, makes appropriations to the Division of State Parks of the State Department of Conservation and Natural Resources for the purchase and replacement of vehicles, equipment, computer and information technology equipment, and radios for certain projects. The people of the state of Nevada, represented in Senate and Assembly, do enact as follows. Section 1 into Section 1.
Are there any amendments?
There are none. Section 9, this act becomes effective on July 1, 2025. End of bill.
Senator Titus.
Thank you, Mr. President. Senate Bill 475, as amended, includes one-time general fund appropriations of approximately $12.8 million over the 2025 to 2027 biennium for the purchase and replacement of vehicles, equipment, computer and information technology equipment, and radios for the Division of State Parks. Thank you, Mr. President.
Any further remarks? Secretary will open the roll. Anyone wish to change their vote? Secretary will close the roll. Yeses are 21, the noes are 0. SB 475 has received the constitutional majority, is declared passed and ordered to the Assembly.
Senate Bill 477, introduced by the Senate Committee on Finance, makes an appropriation to and authorizes the expenditure of money by the Department of Taxation for the continued development and implementation of the unified tax system. People of the state of Nevada, represented in Senate and Assembly, do enact as follows. Section 1 into Section 1.
Are there any amendments?
There are none. Section 2, this act becomes effective on July 1, 2025. End of bill.
Senator Stone.
Thank you, Mr. President. Senate Bill 477, as amended, makes general fund appropriations of $12.5 million to the Department of Taxation in fiscal year 2026 and $15.3 million in fiscal year 2027, and authorizes expenditures of $5 million during the 2025-2027 biennium for continued development and implementation of a unified tax system. This act becomes effective on July 1st, 2025. Thank you, Mr. President.
Any further remarks? Secretary will open the roll. Anyone wish to change their vote? Secretary will close the roll. Yeses are 21, the noes are 0. SB 477 has received the constitutional majority, is declared passed and ordered to the Assembly.
Senate Bill 480, introduced by the Senate Committee on Finance, makes an appropriation to the Office of Finance and the Office of the Governor for a loan to the Office of the Chief Information Officer within the Office of the Governor for the replacement of uninterruptible power supply equipment and related expenses. People of the state of Nevada, represented in Senate and Assembly, do enact as follows. Section 1 into Section 1.
Are there any amendments?
There are none. Section 2, this act becomes effective on July 1, 2025. End of bill.
Senator Buck.
Thank you, Mr. President. Senate Bill 480, as amended, makes general fund appropriations totaling $800,352 over the 2025-27 biennium to the Governor's Finance Office as a loan to the Office of the Chief Information Officer for equipment replacement, licensing, and maintenance expenses. The Office of the Chief Information Officer shall repay the loan in annual installments of 25% commencing on July 1st, 2027 and completed on fiscal year 2031.
Any
Thank
further remarks? Secretary will open the roll. Anyone wish to change their vote? Secretary will close the roll. Yeses are 21, the noes are 0. SB 480 has received the constitutional majority, is declared passed and ordered to the Assembly.
Senate Bill 481, introduced by the Senate Committee on Finance, makes a supplemental appropriation to the Division of Public and Behavioral Health of the Department of Health and Human Services for an unanticipated shortfall related to the costs of provider services in the Southern Nevada Adult Mental Health Services budget account. The people of the state of Nevada, represented in the Senate Assembly, do enact as follows, Section 1 and Section 1.
Are there any amendments?
There are none. Section 2, this act becomes effective upon passage and approval. End of bill.
Senator Titus.
Thank you, Mr. President. Senate Bill 481 as amended, makes a supplemental general fund appropriation in FY 2025 of just over $1.6 million to fund contractual obligations for providers that deliver direct residential services for the Southern Nevada Adult Mental Health Services clients. Thank you, Mr. President.
Are there further remarks? Secretary will open the roll. Anyone wish to change their vote? Secretary will close the roll. Yeses are 21, the noes are 0. SB 481 has received the constitutional majority, is declared passed and ordered to the Assembly.
Senate Bill 487, introduced by the Senate Committee on Finance, makes an appropriation to the Office of the Secretary of State for costs associated with the Business Licensing System Modernization Project. The people of the state of Nevada, represented in the Senate Assembly, do enact as follows, Section 1 into Section 1.
Are there any amendments?
There are none. Section 2, this act becomes effective on July 1, 2025. End of bill.
Senator Stone.
Thank you, Mr. President. SB 487 as amended makes general fund appropriations of $8,983,876 to the Office of the Secretary of State for costs associated with the Business Licensing System Modernization Project, including without limitation costs related to contract staffing. This bill is effective on July 1st, 2025. Thank you, Mr. President.
Any further remarks? Secretary will open the roll. Anyone wish to change their vote? Secretary will close the roll. Yeses are 21, the noes are 0. SB 487 has received the constitutional majority, is declared passed and ordered to the Assembly.
Senate Bill 496, introduced by the Senate Committee on Finance, makes appropriations to the Department of Motor Vehicles for Information Technology System projects. The people of the state of Nevada, represented in the Senate Assembly, do enact as follows, Section 1 into Section 1.
Are there any amendments?
There are none. Section 3, this act becomes effective on July 1, 2025. End of bill.
Senator Neal.
Thank you, Mr. President. Senate Bill 496 as amended makes an appropriation from the Highway Fund to the Department of Motor Vehicles for $13.8 million in fiscal year 2026, $9.8 million in fiscal year 2027 for the cost of migrating a legacy system and data to a cloud platform, and $33.9 million in fiscal year 2026 and $39.7 million in fiscal year 2027 for the cost of the continuation of the Department of Transformation Effort Project.
Any further remarks? Secretary will open the roll. Anyone wish to change their vote? Secretary will close the roll. Yeses are 21, the noes are 0. SB 496 has received the constitutional majority, is declared passed and ordered to the Assembly.
That concludes Order of Business 13 on the first agenda.
Order of Business 14, unfinished business.
Senate Bill 114, introduced by Senators Pizzina, et cetera, revises provisions governing certain landlords. The Assembly has amended this bill with Assembly Amendments Numbers 563 and 620. Does the Senate wish to concur or not concur in this matter?
Senator Pizzina.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move that the Senate concur in Assembly Amendment Numbers 563 and 620 to Senate Bill 114.
You've heard the motion to concur. Are there any further remarks? Senator Pizzina.
Amendment 563 revises the applicability of the bill's provisions, and Amendment 620 it amends the definition of covered premises.
Are there any further remarks? Seeing none, of those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. Motion carries. Senate Bill number 114 has been concurred, is ordered and enrolled, and the Assembly is to be notified of our action.
Senate Bill 168, introduced by Senator Wynne, revises provisions relating to cannabis. The Assembly has amended this bill with Assembly Amendment number 658. Does the Senate wish to concur or not concur in this matter?
Senator Pizzina.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move that the Senate concur in Assembly Amendment number 658 to Senate Bill number 168.
You've heard the motion to concur. Senator Pizzina.
Thank you, Mr. President. Amendment 658 authorizes certain facilities to handle seeds, merchandise, and supplies, removes hold order restrictions, and changes the effective date.
Any further remarks on the motion? Senator Orenshaw.
Thank you, Mr. President. I have a disclosure to make on Senate Bill 168 because we're considering proposed legislation which directly affects the Cannabis Compliance Board. I would like to advise you and the Chamber that my wife serves as an appointed member of the Nevada Cannabis Compliance Board. I've sought the advice of our Legislative Council, and based on that advice, I plan to abstain on this vote and on any future votes on Senate Bill 168.
Any further remarks on the motion? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, nay. Motion carries. Senate Bill number 168 is ordered and enrolled, and the Assembly is to be notified of our action.
Senate Bill 235, introduced by Senator Hansen, revises provisions relating to wildlife. The Assembly has amended this bill with Assembly Amendment number 684. Does the Senate wish to concur or not concur in this matter?
Senator Cruz Crawford.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move that the Senate concur in the Assembly Amendment for number 684 to Senate Bill 235.
You've heard the motion to concur. Senator Cruz Crawford.
Thank you, Mr. President. In desert sun or mountain shade where nature's silent bones are laid, let not the skull so weathered worn be left alone, unloved, forlorn. So I concur with thoughtful pride on this small change the Assembly supplied. As Amendment 684 removes Section 4 of the bill, which could have limited the Board of Wildlife Commissioners' ability to adopt regulations relating to the gathering of shed antlers and gathering of commercial purposes only.
Are there further remarks? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. Motion carries. Senate Bill number 235 is ordered enrolled, and the Assembly is to be notified of our action.
Senate Bill 295, introduced by Senators Deñate, et cetera, and Assembly Members Gonzalez, et cetera, revises provisions related to food establishments. The Assembly has amended this bill with Assembly Amendments numbers 595 and 773. Does the Senate wish to concur or not concur in this matter?
Senator Deñate.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move that the Senate concur in Assembly Amendment 595 to Senate Bill 295.
You've heard the motion to concur. Senator Deñate.
Thank you, Mr. President. This amendment revises the list of allowable food items by a sidewalk vendor may sell.
Any further remarks on the motion? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, nay. Motion carries. Senate Bill number 295 is ordered enrolled, and assemblies to be notified of our action. Okay, apparently there's a second amendment on Senate Bill 295. Senator Deñate.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move that the Senate concur in that the second amendment as well.
Okay, so the motion is to concur with Amendment 773. Senator Deñate.
Thank you, Mr. President. This amendment allows fees to be established in regulation.
All right, any further remarks on the second amendment? Seeing none of those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. Motion carries. Now, Senate Bill number 352 with both amendments is ordered enrolled, and the assemblies to be notified of our action. 295.
Senate Bill 352, introduced by Senators Scheibel, et cetera, revises provisions relating to health care. The Assembly has amended this bill with Assembly Amendment number 552. Does the Senate wish to concur or not concur in this matter?
Senator Pazina.
Thank you, Mr. President. The Senate wishes not to concur in Amendment 552 to Senate Bill 352.
You've heard the motion.
I move that the Senate not concur.
Okay, you've heard the motion to not concur. Senator Pazina.
Thank you, Mr. President. The Senate does not concur in 552 to Senate Bill 352, which would have clarified the Department of HHS is not prohibited from determining eligibility of a person for participation or coverage.
Any further remarks on the motion? Seeing none, those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, nay. Motion carries. Senate Bill 352 is ordered to the Assembly.
That concludes Order of Business 14 on the first agenda.
Okay, we will now go to the second agenda, Order of Business 4, Reports of Committees.
We have no further reports at this time.
Order of Business 13, General File.
Senate Bill 6, introduced by the Senate Committee on Natural Resources, makes an appropriation to the Desert Research Institute of the Nevada System of Higher Education to support the Nevada State Cloud Seeding Program. The people of the state of Nevada, represented in Senate and Assembly, do enact as follows, Section 1 into Section 1.
Are there any amendments?
There are none. Section 3, this act becomes effective on July 1, 2025. End of bill.
Senator Scheibel.
Thank you, Mr. President. This bill appropriates $600,000 in each year of the biennium to the Nevada Cloud Seeding Program so that we can increase snowpack in the Sierra Nevadas and increase water availability throughout the state.
Any further remarks? Secretary will open the roll. Anyone wish to change their vote? Secretary will close the roll. Yeses are 21, the noes are 0. SB 6 has received the majority vote, is declared passed and ordered to the Assembly.
Senate Bill 233, introduced by Senators Deñate and Flores, revises provisions relating to agriculture. The people of the state of Nevada, represented in Senate and Assembly, do enact as follows, Section 1 into Section 1.
Are there any amendments?
There are none. Section 4, this act becomes effective on July 1, 2025. End of bill.
Senator Deñate.
Thank you, Mr. President. Senate Bill 233, as amended, requires the Council on Food Security within the Department of Health and Human Services to conduct a study relating to long-term financial stability of Home Feeds Nevada. Additionally, allocates $800,000 from the general fund to this program.
Any further remarks? Secretary will open the roll. Anyone wish to change their vote? Secretary will close the roll. Yeses are 21, the noes are 0. SB 233 has received the constitutional majority, is declared passed and ordered to the Assembly. The following bills are ready to be immediately transmitted to the Assembly. Senate Bills number 6, 63, 90, 233, 472, 473, 475, 477, 480, 481, 487, 496.
That concludes Order of Business 13 on the second agenda.
Order of Business 16, remarks from the floor, introduction of guests. Senator Cannizzaro.
Thank you, Mr. President. I think that we will have some business later on this afternoon, so I would move that the Senate stand in recess until the call of the chair.
Very good. We are in recess.